A nice little knife. A Kershaw Lil Skinner. Had this for maybe a couple of months. Saw it on Arizona Custom Knife. Just couldn't resist. Just thought it was very kind of somehow classic yet unique. Little gentleman's fixed blade. And was not disappointed upon arrival. So yeah, last night I actually got to doing some sharpening, and I also looked up the Kershaw 2230. Looked at some eBay offerings and some back catalogs. So from what I gather, this is a sort of 1980s to early 90s model. Part of a small range of 3 or so game knives. One that was very much like this, but smaller, and then there's a kind of a caper or a bird and trout style knife. And the offerings on eBay are all what I gathered to be an earlier iteration, where you have these aluminum scales with inlaid wood, and then a fantastically detailed bear etching on the blade. So it ends up being a very different knife, really, from this iteration with the bone handle, which was maybe introduced around 1990. Here's the sheath. I was also, well, I started looking up into the knife, actually, come to think of it, because I was curious about the blade steel. And it's an Oz 8, which, reading up on it, sounds a lot better than, I guess, what I can recall of my prior experiences with Oz 8. It's like it's supposed to be a better version of 440C, or however you want to look at it. So yeah, I backed up the bevels and got my edge on there, and some scratches. Couldn't help it. But it's still too thick behind the edge. So I'm going to go to the 80 grit Tormek wheel now and completely wreck this finish. Catch me on the flip side. I delete perhaps the majority of what I record by way of video right after recording it, when I realized it was garbage. And otherwise directly after uploading, because of the amount of memory capacity that my phone has. However, I did put an SD card in it, and there is a way that I can somewhat, it's somewhat laborious, let's say. It's not a very instantaneous thing, but there is a way that I can get a video into my SD card. And I did it with that last video. I immediately upon recording that, I went and started grinding, and I continued recording, and it was going to be very long and boring, and not really getting anywhere very fast. So yeah, put that one video on the shelf, and I've kept this close, and I've been using it more than working on it. But what happened was, I was able to flatten down the reverse side here. You can see there's still a little clear flat up there. So, this being in principle a full flat grind, that would be a minor flaw in the grind. But probably owing to heat treatment, because on this side there's a kind of a hollow here and a divot here. And I think that this side kind of got a little scorched prior to heat treatment doing the grinding, and then that caused the blade to kind of warp inwards. So it was a little bulgy and convex on this side. Needed flattening via the inside here, and that's consistent with that part there that's untouched. And on this side, meanwhile, of course, that part up there is getting scratched up while this wasn't getting touched. And all of that was playing around on fairly high grits, like as low as 400, because I like to start on a higher grits. you know, even if I'm going to end up removing a lot of material, I just, you know, I'm working my way around the thing. And so, you know, you start with a higher grit, you put some scratches in, that starts to reveal the lay of the land, and you could decide where to focus your efforts and so forth. So I came here and I came to this lovely Gordon stone, well, diamond plate block thing. You got your 200, 300, 400, 600 grits. Works really well. Was cheap as chips. I want to recommend this to Everyday Joe EDC channel because he told me he doesn't have any diamond stuff yet. So this is available at your local Harbor Freight. I think it was maybe $20. And, you know, 200 with 200 grit, you can remove quite a lot of stock by hand. And, you know, if you have a lot to remove, it still takes a while. But and the 600, with this 600 edge, I could just shave myself. So, yeah, the knife is now very sharp with a nice toothy 600 grit edge. And it's very scratchy, but I'm just going to leave this hollow for now. So I've just gone up the grits. There are probably scratches from every grit in here. So again, I'm not going to go the conventional orthodox way and try and remove every scratch from one before I go to the other, because I'm still refining this blade. It doesn't, you know, why go through all the trouble of doing a full polish and then I have to get in there with something, you know, I'm just basically going to go from scratchy, less scratchy, less scratchy, and more polished up to the apex. And the way I'm going to achieve that now is just by taking this to the naniwa and vigorously hitting all of the flats, which are now convex. You know, this is now convex to 0. And staying off this apex as much as possible until I then gently polish that up. Steel is equivalent to 440C, which I have some knives in 440C that are absolutely wonderful. It's not the easiest thing to sharpen, but you can get a wicked edge, lovely polish, all that good stuff. And I think it's down to heat treatment. You know, that this has had a very fine heat treatment. They got it just right. The steel feels great to grind. It takes an awesome edge. It holds it well. Absolute banger of a knife. Thanks for watching.